Economics is hard, which is why we're going to be explaining the housing crisis using a children's card game.
Stacks, you are already being so deceptive. It's not a children's card game, and if you take a look at any of the booster packs located at your local game store, it's clearly packaged recommending 13 and up, and you clearly don't understand the nuance.
1993. Richard Garfield comes to a new gaming company known as Wizards of the Coast with a new idea. This idea, it was very similar to baseball cards, how they were collectible and tradable, except for in this case, a game was built around it, so that the cards that you want built a deck that you want, and then you could play those decks against your friends. And so Magic the Gathering was born. 295 unique cards were built so that you could create your very own customizable deck. And for $1.45, you can buy 15 random cards.
Hey bud, so I just saw that you opened up a pirate ship, and that is sick because I have an anime wall, and I would really want that pirate ship because I have a deck idea called Oops All Pirate Ships, and it's literally just a deck full of pirate ships, and I get to pretend that I'm a little pirate sailing across the open sea. Is it good? No, but I am also 7 years old.
But what if you're not 7 years old? What if you're 15 years old and your idea of finding meaning in this world is stunning on your friends by dominating them in a card game? Well then, you probably need a better deck. But if you want a better deck, you need better cards, and you can buy the Bayou from the 7-year-old who's alone at the back of the store, and he'll easily sell it to you because $15 means 10 more packs, which means 150 more cards, which means so many looks at finding more pirate ships. This kid is obsessed with pirate ships.
He loves feeling like a pirate and escaping his childhood and feelings of neglect because his life at home is no oasis, and this shouldn't come as a surprise to you because I already described him as a 7-year-old alone in the back of the game store. Why weren't you wondering where his parents were? You are part of the problem.
Then there was a third type of person, and they weren't really interested in the game, but really interested in the fact that people were interested in the game. They thought, maybe I could buy this $40 time walk and come back a year or two later and upsell it. Maybe I can make a little cash. The problem is that when these investors came back to the store a year later, they found out that Wizards of the Coast had reprinted all of the cards that they were trying to sell. And who wants to buy your $40 time walk when that kid alone at the back of the store, he's 8 years old now, he's willing to trade you the time walk that he pulled in his pack for just 2 Chaos Orbs. He said something about the metaphor last year being too subliminal and he wanted to be more overt. He's crying out in the only language he knows and you're still not helping him? This happened again and again for 2 years as Wizards of the Coast printed more and more cards as their products got more and more popular and the investors lost more and more money. And so the investors approached Wizards and they said, hey, do you want us to buy more cards? And they were like, yeah, I would love for you to buy more cards. And they were like, okay, so here's what you're going to do for us. Here are 500 cards that we want you to never print again. And Wizards was like, oh, yeah, that's fine. We promise we're never going to print these cards again. This was known as the reserved list, and the prices did what everyone knew that the prices were going to do. In 1993, a Black Lotus would set you back $15. Now, we don't have a full picture of what exactly the prices looked like right after the reserve list was implemented, but by 2003, the Black Lotus was priced at $595. 2010, it's $800, and the popularity of this game skyrockets, and the price of this scarce card explodes in price. In 2019, the card sells at a private auction for $166 grand, and just 2 years later, a small piece of cardboard and ink sells for $511,000. Now let's take a quick pause and look at the economics of this, because you're primed to think that there is a bubble because of the massive price increase, but this is not a bubble, and that is because cost is different from worth. The Black Lotus is worth $511,000 because someone said that they were willing to pay $511,000. This right here is the imminent conclusion of rising demand and declining supply. More and more people are interested in this game, so more and more people want to pick up this ultra powerful card. And more collectors are snatching this card up, and there is a finite supply. If you want this card, you will have to outcompete every other person who wants it too. A bubble is when you would buy something that is not worth the cost of the item. And how is that possible? Well, fraud. Let's say you make a fake card, and that fake card is probably really only worth like $10, but you sell it to someone who doesn't know it's fake for $500,000, and then you do that 100 times. That is a bubble, and it's going to burst as soon as people find out that it was fraud. And what if that $500,000 was used as collateral for debt? Suddenly, thousands of people are a lot broker than they thought they were. People who didn't even touch the card or even knew it existed. That is, in a roundabout way, what happened in 2008. But that is not what is happening today. What is happening today is that we created a reserved list for houses, and it's why we're seeing things like this. See, you swap Magic the Gathering cards with housing and Wizards of the Coast with local government, and you don't get too far off of what's going on right now. You have people who use housing like an investment portfolio, and they sit on a house and they think, I am going to sell this in 40 years, and it's going to be my little nest egg, and when I sell it, I'm going to have enough profit off of it that I can retire from it. And then the government comes in and says, hey, there's all these rascals. We got to make sure that they've got somewhere to live. Let's go ahead and zone some lands and build some nice apartment buildings, and we'll just put them all in there so everyone can live in there. But I don't know if you know this, we live in a democracy, and the government just does all of this stuff publicly. So in those meetings, all the homeowners come in and they're waving these signs and waving flags, and they're saying, we don't want these places built. Obviously, they need to be built somewhere. We should house these people, but just not here, not in my backyard. These guys are called NIMBYs, and they're kind of the bad guys of the story, just like the investors were kind of the bad guys of that story. Because if you tried to buy a house for $500,000 and you try to sell it now for $500,000 and there's a whole bunch of apartments right next door, some people are just going to be like, no, I'm just going to go live in those apartments right over there. Why am I going to buy your house? And you have to lower the price to incentivize people to want to buy your house. And this is critical. What's bad for the homeowner is kind of good for the world because we want cheap housing. We want to make sure that everyone can afford to live. And this is key to understanding the issue because this is not an accident. This is the work of very deliberate homeowners who are purposefully restricting supply so that they can sell their houses for more money. And that is where we're at. The supply is being intentionally bottlenecked. The good news is that Wizards of the Coast made a legal promise to never print cards on the reserved list, but your local government is under no such obligation to keep this bottleneck going. Say what you want about boomers, but they show up to meetings, and we can point out as to why kids don't show up. One of those reasons is because young kids are disproportionately students who have their addresses in their hometowns and not the ones that they live in, so they don't vote on zoning regulations that affect their lives. We need to build more houses because currently the most conservative estimate puts us 3 million short of people's needs. And if you're wondering how that's even possible considering there's already 11 million vacant homes, I would love to make a video on it, but this is just a quick breakdown of the housing crisis. And I would also love to go over the solutions to these problems, which involve upzoning and land value taxes. But for right now, it's critical to understand that showing up to meetings and getting involved in local politics is the first step. And it's important that we do something now because the cost of this Black Lotus is more than the median cost of a house. And I don't need this card to live.
Hey, thanks for watching. This is my first kind of big video that I've made like this. I would really like to make a lot of long form content. So if you could like, subscribe, comment, let me know that you're interested in more videos, and I'll definitely be more likely to put something out. Thanks for watching, and hope you have a nice day.